All right. That music is way too loud. How do I fix that? Let's see. There we go. Alrighty. Just give me one moment. I'm a little behind schedule today. No, that looks fine. Okay. So that's good. We've got the canning board up. And we need the Miro board. That's what I'm missing. Okay, good. Good. So I've been having a few issues with OBS lately. Hopefully it doesn't just decide to turn off midstream, but if it does, that's where I went. And I'll be back shortly after. So without, oh no, I should check my audio. Shoot. Sometimes I'll forget to turn this audio off and I watch the stream back and I can't hear a darn thing over the music. Freaks me out. Please. How about now? Yeah, that sounds fine. Okay, so thank you for bearing with me there, and welcome to another week of Future Group Friday. For those of you who are new to this stream, my name is Cheese Doodle. I am a member of the TagPro Steering Committee and Development Team, which are the two groups together called the Future Group, tasked with coming up with new ideas for how to improve the game TagPro, how to implement them, building them, and then actually announcing those things to the community. If you are new to TagPro, it is an online capture the flag game. You can play it live 4v4 for free in your browser. Check it out, tagpro.gg. We are working through some canny board requests to start us off, kind of making sure before that, development updates, talking about what the team's been working on the last week or so, maybe some next steps that we're working on. Then we'll shift over to the canny board, which is in front of me right now, and we will finish up with the Miro board, which is our kind of roadmap kind of thing that we've been working on, trying to figure out where we're going after we get done with the big three being the ranked matchmaking system that is out now finally, the in-game shop, which I have some exciting updates on, and then the Steam release, which is our big target for the next few months. So if you have any questions along the way, feel free to let me know. There were a couple questions to the form. Let me link that as well in the chat here. If you have any questions you'd like me to answer anonymously, feel free to fill out this form and I will get to them at some point. There it goes. Okay, so development updates. We're going to go back to a week from now. Hope everyone had a nice new year, by the way. That's relevant. So we're back to the 26th will be our starting point here. And that puts us at click events. Okay, so we had a feature on the way for removing click events from private games, mostly for Egg Ball, so they don't have to use a script to not pull up the report dialog when they click on somebody. Got a review came in on the gravity well adjustments, which I think I've mentioned a couple times on stream, the ability to change how strong or weak your gravity well is and also invert it so it turns into a pushing mechanic instead of into a pulling mechanic, which I think is pretty cool. Then we've got replay URL improvements. Right now, if you watch a replay and you decide that you don't want to be focused on yourself, say you want to focus on somebody else who has the flag or whatever, and then you want to share that replay with somebody, if you have switched the view to be on that other player and you copy the URL, it will now bring the new person into that same view. So say I join a replay, I'm following myself to start, I switch over and I'm following Bash, who's in front of me right now, and then I say, oh, that's a really cool play, and I send that replay to Bash. When Bash clicks on it, it will show himself. It will not show me because I sent the link, because I was focused on him. So the replay will know that the next person to look at it should also focus on that player, which is a little QOL thing. It's fun. Done some improvements to that from the moderation side as well, making sure that we can find the right people from replay files if needed. We are suppressing a bug that we've had for a few months now related to people logging out after they've requested something from the server. It's nothing that changes anything on the front end. We've got some changes to the post-game update code, just refactoring it so it's a little cleaner. And then more of the same. Oh, I finally was able to spend some time on the countdown clock in launchers. So if you might have seen this before, if you are in the pre-ranked voting page, like you got the 2 maps to vote on, you got a little chat box and the timer that says that you're going to launch in whatever number of seconds. Sometimes if there's a question block next to a player, the timer will go a little wonky. It'll say like players in overtime looking for a sub, and it'll flip back and forth between that and a countdown that's working its way down towards 0. And it was definitely related to overtime. I couldn't really figure out what it was, so I had tabled it for a while. I was able to spend some time on it last week and figured out what's going wrong. And now all it's going to do is have the whole timer starting from 75 seconds down to 15 seconds. In the last 15 seconds, if that game is still waiting for a player who is in casual and in overtime, it will replace the timer with that same message, waiting for a player in an overtime game, looking for a sub, I think is what it says. And then while it's doing that, it is looking for a substitute for them, so it's going to pull them out of the casual game into your ranked game. The reason that system is important is because it's going to take longer than those 15 seconds, up to 30 potential seconds after that. So we want to make sure that the timer isn't bouncing all over the place, so players know to stay ready because they're going to be launching soon, but we don't know exactly how long it's going to be because we're pulling somebody out of a casual game. So it's a little thing, but the flip-flopping of the score on the launcher should not happen after the next release. So then we had a change to the leaderboard that was resulting in crashes. This has been happening for a while. We couldn't figure out why, and we finally cracked it. Every once in a while, and it was very random, it seemed like, the entire joiner would crash because a player had finished a ranked game, and the process that tries to insert their update into the leaderboard was crashing everything. And what we found was that it only happens when a player who is in the very, very last place of all active players, in the very, very last place of everybody, becomes active as the last place active player. So you have 100 players and you have the 101st player is inactive. They haven't played enough games to be active yet. If they played enough games to become active, but they lost that game where they became active, when it tried to insert them, it was inserting them in the wrong place and it was crashing everything. So it was a very, very specific use case that only comes up like 3 or 4 times a season probably, but it was happening and we were able to find it out this time. So that fix went in directly, so it's up live now to make sure we don't crash the joiner again. And then we can move on. We have some fixes that I was working on yesterday to the map bot. For those who are familiar with the map test committee, they run everything through the Discord creative bot now. You can use that for updating submissions. Like if you say, I want to submit this map for consideration to the rotation, you can use the bot to send it in. The map test committee votes on it, and then the bot has an API where it can directly update the game itself. The details of that don't matter, but what does matter is that there was a check on that bot trying to make sure every day that if map test committee members had not voted on a map, that they would get a ping that says, hey, there's a map that needs you to vote on it. Since the day that was built, it was not working properly, and it was pinging the entire map test committee every day for the last 2 years, I think. It's been pinging everybody. So I was able to take a look at that bot code, which is in a separate repo, figure out why it was doing that, and push a fix for that. And at the same time, I was also able to fix a very, very minor visual bug, which is that if a map is promoted from trial to casual, so say it's in the trial rotation and it gets promoted into the rotation, it's not showing up on this list at all. And I think that's actually happening right now for one specific map, and it was happening because this checkbox was not selected. So I put in a fix to do that automatically now, so I don't have to come in here and click that button every time. But Odell was promoted a few days ago, and that should be showing up now on the Maps tab. But I put in a fix because I had to fix the bot code and fix the TagPro code. So together, those should be fixed for the next release, so I don't have to keep doing that. That'll update in like 10 minutes, I think. But yeah, so that's in. And then the bigger news is that the very first branch related to the store has finally come in. So the store has officially broken ground. It's underway. I don't have too much more to share on that until it's kind of become a little more substantial, but we are in progress on the shop. We're probably not going to have the shop in the next release. We're going to have a release for everything intermediate we've been working on. Maybe like a placeholder for the shop page that says coming soon or something like that. But the shop will take a little bit longer than some of the other things I've been mentioning. So that is the past week in development. And non-development things that have been going on, we are finalizing the descriptions and names of all the new flares that we're adding to the shop. We've got about 50 something of those set aside that we've been working on lately. And then there was one other thing that we were doing and I forget what it was. Oh, that's right. One of our new developers, I don't think I've mentioned this on stream yet, Oddball, was added to the development team, and he's been working on picking up where I left off on the reinforcement learning bots, but with a better approach. So still using the same core, like, what do you call it? Like files that help you put a fake player into a game, basically, but with a different brain inside of them. And he's been working on that for a few weeks now, and looks like we're actually making some progress. So hopefully I'll have something to share on that soon. But it's been nice to have somebody else working on that while I can focus on other things, because I'm really excited to get that up and running at some point. So that's the week in development. We have a big meeting coming up on Sunday where we're going to talk about next steps, kind of things I've been mentioning on stream, in truth. But we're also going to go into a little more detail on the roadmap and where we're going from here to the Steam release and beyond. And we'll talk about that in the mirror board in a bit. The other thing is the candy board in front of me. I'm a little confused about it because I was notified about a month and a half ago that we were being phased out of whatever free plan we've been using for them, meaning that we were going to lose access to features or something like that. They didn't explain it super well, but they wanted us to move to a paid plan, which was going to be a couple $100 a month, which we're not going to do that. We just don't have the budget for that. But it appears to still be working. So I'm going to keep using it until it stops working. But for now, it seems like we're okay. So we only have 3 things that came in this week. I think a little quiet with New Year's and all that, but that means we have more time for the roadmap afterwards. So first one, in-game ranked queue indicator. Currently, when you're playing a casual game, there's no way to tell if you are currently in the ranked queue or not. Add an indicator to show if you are in the queue and the size of the queue. So like Bash said, this is something we had sort of been looking at. We have already the little green arrow in the top left of your screen. You might have noticed that. That is the next game indicator, which just says that when this game ends, are you going to go into another game or are you going to go back to the home page? It also, if you are in a casual game, stops you from consideration for ranked games while you're in that game. So if you click on it and it turns to red, you are no longer being considered for ranked games if you had queued for both. But if you click it again and it goes back to a green arrow, in the next game that you get into, it could be ranked, it could be casual. So you won't be matched during that game, but it will send you back to the joiner afterward for whatever selections you had before that game. We are talking, what Bash is mentioning, we talked about improving that to make it indicate somehow like an animation or something that says that you are actually connected, because if you click it twice, it looks the same as if you haven't clicked it at all. So it's I don't think it's that critical, because if it's not telling you anything, the assumption should be that you are connected to the joiner, but it would be nice to have some sort of visual that shows you that. So I'm going to mark this as under review. See Bash's comment. Say Bash comment. See Bash comment. And then next from Wanye, we have add a CTF NF option to spectator game selection filter. Maybe some easier way to tell which game is capture the flag or neutral flag from that page. I think I'm a little confused about this because of the previews. So if we go to that page that he's talking about, and we go to the spectate page, it's got a list of games. So what he's saying is that he wants to know on this page whether or not the game he's looking at is neutral flag or capture the flag. But you can hover over the, I don't know, maybe it's just too small of a preview. Like you can see it's a neutral flag map there. And you can see that's capture the flag, neutral flag, capture the flag, capture the flag. So I don't know. I feel like this is already kind of a thing, but I guess just more. I mean, it wouldn't be too hard to put it like down here, just like NF, CTF below the score, maybe in small text. A filter for it, that would be a little more complicated because it's not It's not terribly complicated. It's just not super intuitive, I think, is my main issue, because you've got ranked versus casual. Now inside of each of those, you have two different categories. So you've got it's kind of the same problem we have with the checkboxes, where there are just a lot of options, or a lot of combinations of options. I don't know. I think that easier indicator of the neutral flag versus capture the flag is fine. This is something we've planned already, so it's kind of a two-part request here. I'm gonna say planned on this one, and see if I can find that ticket real quick. No, maybe we don't have it. I'm gonna make a ticket for the neutral flag CTF one. I'm gonna ignore the other part for now, just so I know it's on our radar. So let's say indicate game mode on spectate cards, and then relevant canny post. Let me know if the music's too loud. It's kind of distracting me a little bit. What was I doing? TagPro. Add CTF. There we go. On the scorecard beneath the dash between red, blue scores, indicate the game mode as NF or CTF in small text. That is a low effort change. It's an enhancement. Okay, that's good enough for me. And then we can say this is planned. Ticket for NF CTF indicators has been added internally. Not yet been sent. Hello, Fly. Okay, there's that. And then we've got, it's an okay volume, but by all means turn it down if it's a distraction. Thank you, Grant. I'm a little thrown off today. So, color code replay timestamps. In replays, currently all timestamps are green, and they can get confusing, but love it. Grabs were red, pops were blue, tags were green, etc. So this is a request for in a replay. If you are watching back, I guess it doesn't really matter what. Let's go for that. And say you are looking at GOAT and you want to see all of their different stats. It just adds new green tabs for all of those things. I think red and blue would be a problem because those are already used for captures. I guess the easiest way to do that would be just putting a little box here with the color, and you click on it and it picks a different color from a color wheel, and then it changes those tags to whatever color you had selected. That wouldn't be too hard to add. I don't think I would use it very often, but we could definitely do it, and we have a category for that on the roadmap for the could do it but when why. So sure, why not? Add color customization. Oh god, customization to replay tick marks. Then we need color code. Canny request. Good. Make sure my nose isn't bleeding. All right. In replays, For each stat that can be indicated on the timeline with a tick mark, include a color wheel box. Box shows current color selection, can be expanded to full color wheel. When a color is chosen, change the tick marks on the replay to match that color. Pretty self-explanatory. Okay, again, I don't think I would ever use that, but if it's useful for somebody else, can you add an indicator for a play that makes me mauled at my teammates because they've thrown the game too? That would be a next level stats question, and I'm sure we can explore that at some point. But I think for now we're going to stick with, how about red? Red's good. This is probably between a low and a high. I'm not sure, it's probably a standard amount of effort, so we'll just mark that as an enhancement. Do I need to explain anything else here? Persistence of color choices TBD based on effort required for the above. If it's like a lot of work to get this done, we probably wouldn't go the extra mile and do that. But if it's like super straightforward, then yeah, we could probably discuss that. Good enough. Planned. Just copy this over. Boom. Okay. Nice and simple. Again, that might be the last time we ever get to use the candy board because they keep saying it's gone, but good enough for now. So let's move over now to the anonymous questions I've received. Let's get those pulled up real quick. Oh, we actually had a couple this week. That's good. Number one. That's not what I thought it was. Where'd that go? Here it is. Okay. Oh, that's not a real question. Okay. That's asking for feet pics. Thanks, whoever that was. And this one just says, remove ELO from a player who disconnects even if the team with 3 votes to continue it. Oh, that's not a question either. Okay, well, that's a request. So that's saying that if a team of 4 has a player leave in a ranked game and they're down to 3 players, they want if the team of 3 votes to continue, they both double tap, or they all double tap shift, the game finishes and they win the game. This is asking for the player who left the game to still be penalized and lose score, even though their team won the game. Right now, the current handling, I think, is to throw the game out for the quitter. But I can see the appeal of allowing them to lose skill score as well, because they left the game. I think that the reason we don't handle it like that, I'm just trying to think back, it has something to do with if the player disconnects like a couple seconds before the game ends, we didn't want them to be penalized for that. I'm going to mark that for discussion, and we will come back to it because I see the appeal. Just write that down real quick. Got penalize winning quitter. Okay. Moving on. That's all our responses. Sorry, I thought there were actually some questions in there, but it is what it is. So, moving on now to our Miro board. This is going to be where we spend most of our time today. Just to revisit where we left off. Is this blurry for anybody else? Looks a little blurry for me. All right, so where this left off was last week we were going through, 2 weeks ago we were going through release cornerstones, putting them in order of priority, and then separating the stuff that was in progress. last week we were working through QOL things. So we were breaking them down into 3 different categories. You've got fixes that are more visual audio focused. You've got fixes that are more information focused, like providing information for something that people would want to know. And then functional things where it's the way the game works maybe isn't as intuitive as it could be, or it isn't working the way that you might expect it to work based on the information that you're given at the time. So we broke those into high, medium, and low priority, and then broke those down into those 3 categories. Since last week, I did fix this one already, so this is done. So we can just get it out of here. I'll worry about that later. But I liked having this to pull from and say, okay, what do I want to focus on today? And then I would just go to the high priority and see what caught my attention. So the focus for this week, we were going to be moving beyond the QOL down into the could do it, but why/when category. So we're going to start by breaking this down into some more specific categories, and then we will decide where to go from there. I did miss a couple of comments in the chat. Let me answer those real quick. Have you seen calls for ranked egg ball? Yeah, we talked about that on stream a little bit last week. I think just to give the short version of that is I'm not against ranked egg ball from a core conceptual standpoint. What I am against egg ball right now for is a player-based size standpoint. We don't have the player base to support another queue, even ignoring the fact that, well, that's the first answer. The second answer is yes, there are a large number of players who would only play egg ball. They wouldn't be relevant for CTF and NF, but that's still a couple players being pulled over. Then the players who do get pulled over, even if they're only pulled over sometimes, you have to consider that ranked has a 15-degree cutoff, and we don't have a way to have that apply selectively. It would be applied or it would not be applied. So if it is ranked egg ball, you need to get to 15 degrees to play ranked egg ball, but you can only get to 15 degrees by playing casual, capture the flag, and neutral flag. So you've got players who can't join because they only want to play egg ball, but they can't because it's ranked. You've got players who have been playing TagPro for a long time but have never played egg ball and are playing egg ball for the very first time in a ranked format. Not great. And then you also have the friction between those two groups. Obviously, you have the players who are very experienced and the players who are completely new, putting them together and saying this is ranked and the win matters. Not a great recipe for cohesion, if you will. So where we landed on that was in a Steam release, larger player base. It could or should start as a casual queue that can allow players to understand the game mode, play it if they want to, play it casually. Then once that becomes a sustainable enough queue that we know enough players are playing it, then we can offer the ranked version of that as well. So we have to step into it. I'm not comfortable going straight to a ranked egg ball for where we are right now. They ask you about it daily, so I just needed the talking points. Yeah, I've had a conversation with a couple of them as well. I think our Soccer and G-Man are the two who reached out to me directly, and we chatted a bit, but didn't really go anywhere because that's kind of how I've landed on it. So yeah, not against it long term, just not something we can really reliably say would work well right now. It might also be detrimental to the game as a whole if we did that too soon. So other things, you think it should be its own site? I did have a thought about that as well, actually. I want to ramble about that for a second because I was trying to figure out when we're thinking about UI UX stuff, like with the quality of life updates or features. It is a little bit strange, and not necessarily in a bad way, but it is strange to have one kind of game and then another very different kind of game. You're both in both game modes. Everyone's a ball, sure, that's consistent. You got end zone tiles, like yeah, there's some overlap there, but the meta, the way people play it, it's a different game in the same game. So I was trying to figure out how do you find the common ground between them and allow players to select what they want to do from there. And to give an example of what I mean by that is with ranked, for example. You go here and you've got casual and you've got ranked. Oh, expansion scheduled. That's exciting. Look at that. So you've got the casual and ranked. They are two different branches of the same core TagPro. Like TagPro is your core. But if you have egg ball and you say your core is still TagPro, it's like your core is now two things. It's TagPro and egg ball, and then you have casual and ranked for both of those things, but there's still no common base for the two of them. And I was trying to figure out how do you zoom out even more so that those two are both branches off of a common base, and I couldn't figure out how to do that. And then I did come to the thinking point of should it be its own site, and I couldn't make that work either. Just gonna get ahead of that here, but like, do you have it be you go to one homepage and it's TagPro? Do you go to a different homepage and it's Egg Ball? Do you have shared flares? How do you like? There's still some issues that would have, but right? Can you say Koala Beast is your zoom out? This is a gaming studio, as you said, and then you have different games and that. Yes, that was kind of where I was going with it, but how do you untangle the flares? You'd have to have. I don't know. That's kind of where my thoughts stopped, but yeah, it's an interesting thing worth exploring in the future, I think. Somebody in the past, I forget who, had talked about maybe with the Steam release having Egg Ball as its own item on Steam. Like you just have Egg Ball on Steam and you have TagPro on Steam, and we could maybe explore that if we have TagPro in a good spot, because we could just strip TagPro down to the bare bones and say this is just Egg Ball now, and it would work fine as its own game. I don't know. Obviously, time is a big factor, like everything else that we do for that kind of stuff. But moral of the story, I did have some thoughts about that I would be happy to explore more in the future. But for now, not ready for Egg Ball on the site itself. None of the devs really care about Egg Ball. Egg Ball population is small. Why put the effort? No, that's not really how I think about it. I think that Egg Ball actually, it's a very low barrier of entry. I think it is more appealing to players who have never heard of the game before. So there's definitely a place for it. I wouldn't want to just table it. I think what you're saying, and what I do agree with, is that we don't play it that often. So we're not like, oh, we should fix this thing because it's bothering us all the time. Like it's you don't think about it, so you don't think to do anything about it. That I agree completely with. Might be more likely to pop off. It's possible. Yeah, that's why I want to explore it if we can. I feel like it's a useful thing for us to have to offer if we can use it correctly. So we'll talk about that more. But yes, I'm thinking the same idea. Happy New Year, Josh. Do I have any resolutions? I don't know. I'm not a big resolutions guy. Just kind of do your best kind of thing. But I guess get TagPro on Steam. That's my resolution this year. That's an easy cop-out because you already knew that. So let's move on to the Miro board. We're going to go down to our could do it, but when why section. And we're going to break this down a little bit differently than we did the QOL section, because these are things that they'd be fun to add. They might not necessarily change the course of the game. So the two big categories for this are changes to group settings, like experimental settings, and then everything else. So we're going to separate those out first, and then we can talk about order within them. But things like a group setting for respawn where popped, that's a group setting. It has uses, but at the end of the day, it is just a change to groups. So a lot of these are going to end up in this category. I just don't want to be comparing these against it'll be easier when I have an example of something else, like peak tile shape. Like this is a game meta changing point. This is not a group specific thing. It's a different tile that we could add. Whereas these things are all for like mini games or gravity or the very specific use cases that might eventually be something we explore for the game as a whole, but it wouldn't be where they begin necessarily. Game history, list of private groups, that would be over here. It's over here. I'll explain these a little more when we start to rank them. For now, I'm just doing the boring part quickly. That's a group option. That's a group option. Customize power-up indicator display timing before power-up respawn. That's saying that if the group has respawn timers enabled, you can decide when, the group has power-up previews enabled. You can decide when that preview actually shows up. So say you grab a power-up, you know it's going to be back in 60 seconds. Don't show what it's going to be for 45 seconds. So instead of 60 seconds of this is going to be a TagPro, you only get 15 seconds of this is going to be a TagPro. And so I think that timer might be a little bit smaller. They might say like 5 seconds before, so you can't have people like changing how they're playing for the entire round, just waiting for that TagPro. I think that was the argument for it. Again, it's experimental. No idea if it will be better or worse, but group options, group options, group options, non-group options, previews, decimal, honking, new tile, different ball shapes. I really want to do this. I think playing as a triangle is one of my favorite TagPro experiences. It's just so ridiculous. Events in private groups, I guess that's also group. Player ping. Donation flares, that'd be over here. That's groups. Grab immunity is groups. Game ending parameters, that's another one I'd be very excited for. Boom. Okay, so we've got these two different categories, and this is going to be labeled group options, and this is going to be labeled game options. And so I think it's a little more obvious now that we've got them separated out what I'm talking about. Oops, I put these on the wrong side. Somebody was probably tearing their hair out about that. New tiles are game changing. They are not group specific. Okay. I might have missed another one in there, but we'll catch it when we go through the ordering here. So I want to talk about group options first, just because these are going to be the kinds of things that might tag along in a release if it is something related that we worked on. So we'll just talk priority. What's the most important stuff to add here? And I think I actually need to break this down into a couple more categories, unfortunately, because I want to separate out the meta advancing experiments, because there are a lot of things that they'd be cool to add. They don't really have a use case unless they end up being better than the base game. So things like the all of these power up or tile types go in that category. Things like the different rolling bomb options. Where'd that go? All right, it's gone. I'll find it when I'm going through this, but all right, so things like customized grab immunity. We're not going to change the meta for the 0.25. That's like an established thing. We're not going to be touching that. So that would stay with your group options category. That's an easy example. But then things like respawn where popped, that's never going to be in the base game. That's going to stay as a group option. Steal power up and tag, same idea. Buddy jumps don't happen. Potato flag mechanic to buttons, that was a potential meta advancement because we're saying that in public games, casual and ranked, adding the potato flag mechanic to buttons. Now it might start as a group option so we can see how it plays, but that might end up working its way into the actual game if the decision is that it is good. And for those who are not aware what this is, the potato flag mechanic is the mechanic where if you are holding a potato flag, which is specified in the map data, it looks like a little potato, you will pop after a certain number of seconds holding that flag. So a potato flag mechanic to buttons is the same logic. You will pop after a certain number of seconds of holding that button. The ideal use case for this is to help give new players a better indication of what they should or shouldn't be doing. You've got some of those players who join for the first time, they find a button, and they just sit on that button for the entire game. Now, if there was a little smoking animation, and then they pop, they're going to learn just through negative reinforcement not to sit on that button the entire game. They're going to come off of it occasionally. Maybe they'll chase the flag instead. It's not a perfect system, but it is a system that we could explore, which is why it's down here in the could do it, but why/when. So it would be a meta advancement if we added that to the game. Inverted rolling bomb, probably not going to become something in the main game. Mars ball scoring, probably not. Anchored Mars balls, probably could be meta advancing because that's a big map making opportunity if you have a Mars ball that does not move. But if it's a group setting, it wouldn't work because the group settings, You'd have to have the default be that it does not move, and then in groups you allow them to move. That would be a larger conversation with this future group if we get to that. So I'm going to keep that actually over in group options for now. TagPro pops both teams. Probably not going to make it into the base game. Teleportation power up. Probably not in the base game. Preserve momentum through respawn. Probably not in the base game. Revoke rolling bomb invulnerability after contact with the offending element is broken. So this one, to give an easy example, if you think about the old tiles on Transilio, you have like a 5 or 6 gate long, or Geo Koala would work too, like a long gate with a lot of tiles, and they're all controlled by a single button. With the current rolling bomb, if you are in that gate and a player presses the button, so it all turns into unfriendly gates, those unfriendly gates will pop your rolling bomb. They will defuse it, but they will not pop you. So you stay intact, you lose the power up, and you have a few seconds of invulnerability. So you'll notice that after your rolling bomb explodes, you don't pop, you still stay alive for a couple more seconds until you have left that gate. If you go too slow or you stay still, yes, then you will pop because that invulnerability wears out. But what this is saying is that if you are on that gate tile and the player presses the button, comes off of the button, and presses it again, right now, nothing changes. You still have that invulnerability. This suggestion is saying when they come back onto it, that is a new contact. It is not the previous contact that diffused your rolling bomb, so it should not honor the invulnerability of that rolling bomb. So what you can do is you could double tap somebody. You could press the button, hit a wall, come back onto the button. That would be 2 popping events, and the second one would still pop your ball. That is what this recommendation is to do, and that would be a meta advancement because it changes how the base game works. So after that, we've got customized power-up indicator display time. I don't really know how big of a deal this would be. It's probably a potential meta advancement, but I don't think that's what it was proposed as, so I'm going to keep it over here for now. Oops. Okay, additional rolling bomb, detonation, and expiration experimental settings. This is the one I was trying to remember before. Let me open that up real quick. 424. Yeah, so this was a lot of different options for what to do with rolling bombs. I don't want to go through all of them right now, actually, but they're in front of you if you want to pause the video and look at them. Basically, different ways of rolling bombs affecting the game, I guess is how I'll summarize it. I think the most out there one is that if you defuse a rolling bomb, it also diffuses any bombs near you. So there are some pretty weird things you can do with it, but that would be a meta advancement if any of those ends up making its way into the actual game. So I'll put that over there. Stacking power-up compounding effects, that could make its way into the game. It's saying that if you have a rolling bomb and you pick up a second rolling bomb, you would get 2 invincibility diffuses instead of 1. If you have a juke juice, it would become faster as a juke juice. You would have even more acceleration than just with 1 juke juice until the first one wears off. I don't really know how that would work with TagPro. It might be the kind of thing that some other TagPro change would come along with it, where we nerf the TagPro a little bit, but then allow it to get a little bit stronger if you double it. I haven't really explored that yet, but that is an option. So top speed power up option, we're probably not going to add that to the base game because it was removed for being too strong, if I'm not mistaken. So that wouldn't be a thing. You get a second TagPro and you tactical nuke the other team instantly and then lose your buffs. Yeah, it just pops everybody on the other team. And it's an option. Feel free to submit. Allow different ball shapes. That's probably not going to make its way into the actual game. Events in private groups. That's obviously group specific. See through walls, group specific. Game ending parameters. That would probably have to stay in groups just because first to 3 or when time expires is such a core thing that we have. So I don't think that would change anything there. Allow bombs and buttons on team tiles. That is meta advancement. The peak tile shape is meta advancement. Record, OT, display, and win rate. That's nothing to do with the meta. Nothing to do with groups. Game history. That's fine. That's nothing. No. Texture packs. Previews. Stats. Honking. Player ping. This one. Player ping, it's not really meta. I mean, what that would be is it indicates how strong a connection you have. So if you have somebody playing from like Oceania, you can tell that they're lagging. You know that they're not just like not trying or anything like that. I don't think that changes the meta really, but yeah, that's over there. Donation flares, nothing to do with the game. Nothing to do with the game. Profile stats, no. All right, these two. This is what I was looking for. Wall bombs tile and super boost tile. Those would both be meta changing because the new tile types do allow for the meta to adjust alongside them. So that's our 3 different categories. If I had to pick which one would be the most important, I couldn't. Did Orchids artificially limit ping to a minimum of 25 or whatever get completely dropped? Yeah, it's not dropped. The branch is, I think it needs to be rebased because it's got some merge conflicts with the base branch. That is a group only experiment that we're going to be adding. It's not something that I personally plan to add to the base game right now, but it'll be more of a steer code discussion. I don't think that it's really valuable as like a balancer. This is a personal opinion. I feel like the game is so ping dependent that messing with that is just unnatural. I don't know a better argument with that. Like, I see why it's valuable. For those who don't know what Grant is talking about, there is a branch that was opened that would take the ping of every player to the server, and it would try to balance the players according to a number that you've specified. So say you have a Chicago game, and you have a bunch of players who live in Chicago, and you have a couple players who live on the East Coast, a couple players on the West Coast who have pings in like the 50 to 70 range. What it would do is it would take anybody with a ping of lower than X, and let's say X is 25. So anybody with a ping lower than 25, and it would delay when it sends out those updates so that they are still receiving things at a ping of 25. So those who don't know what ping is, it's just how long it takes your computer to talk to the server. 25 is 25 milliseconds, which is a very small amount of time, but it is relevant when you get to the scale of like 100 milliseconds for somebody far away. That reaction time does play into the game. Players who are closer to the server usually perform at a higher level. Not always, but usually. So what this is saying is it would reduce the advantage that those players have by saying that even though you live next to the server, you only have the ping that's as good as somebody who lives a couple hundred miles away, kind of thing. So 25 would be your ping even though you're at the server. So the argument there is that you can make even more balanced games because you've nerfed people who were just better because their reaction time was better, and forced everybody to be on more level playing field, which may make the game more fun for people who have higher ping because they're so used to getting their butts kicked because they have a bad reaction time, whereas they could be a little bit more competitive. The trade-off is that the players who are used to being very good might now be only pretty good or somewhat good. 25 ping is still a very playable ping. That's I think why that number came up in the first place, where it's a number that you're not going to be miserable because you have 25 ping. Like it's a very doable thing. Like I play on 50-ish ping to Chicago, and it's totally playable, but I'm not like elite. Not that I would be if I had 5 ping. I still would be moderately okay probably, but that is why that branch was created in the first place. I, as the person who gets to make this decision, was saying it's going to start as a group option only so that we can try it out, see how it plays out. If people are like, wow, this is going to save the game, maybe we'll consider adding it to the base game. But as it stands now, I don't see this being something that I want to add directly into the game. And rant. So yeah, that exists, but it's not going anywhere just yet until it gets rebased, and then we'll test it out in groups. So back to these guys here. All three are kind of, we could do it, but when. I think I want to talk about the meta advancing first, because that's the one that I think the most people have been asking for are different tile types. That's probably the most consistent request that we've had for a while now. And the thing with meta, and I think I've talked about this a couple times on stream actually, so I won't go into too much detail, but if you have a change that changes the meta, like the goal of this change is to make the meta different than it is now, you only really need to do that when the game has stagnated to a certain degree. And what I mean by that is that if players are so used to the same routine every day, day in, day out, you get kind of bored with that routine. Maybe it doesn't stay interesting for you. Maybe if you're a new player, it is hard because everybody knows the meta inside and out and you haven't figured it out yet, so you're a little behind. Adding in new elements and new meta changes is twofold, because it's something new and fresh for the players who have been around for a long time, and it sort of not levels, but it moves towards leveling the playing field for those new players, because they're learning all these new things, but also the players who are experienced are learning something new at the same time. So there's a little bit of a chance for them to have more even footing, I guess is the best way I can put that. And that's the same argument used for a fresh map rotation. If you have the same map rotation all the time, all the players who've been playing for 10 years know every boost group by the back, like the back of their hand. They're going to hit the tiles perfectly, the corners, everything, how to line up their snipes off map and stuff like that, where do flag carriers hang out. All of those things are worse for new players because they don't know these things yet. So with new map rotation, you have to just keep forcing players to think differently, try new things. They're going to be more likely to make a mistake or not know what the right play is. That does somewhat level the playing field for newer players. So it's the same idea with these new tile types here. I don't think that we are currently at a point where that is the highest priority. I know obviously the big 3 roadmap is the highest priority, but beyond that even, I don't think I could say right now that the main thing holding TagPro back is the skill ceiling. I don't think that is what stops us from becoming a larger game. I think it's a lot more to do with the QOL things and making sure that the site is intuitive and making sure that it's visually appealing and like the new player experience. That's why these kinds of things got shunted down to the bottom, even though it would be cool. And if I had to pick things that I want to do and that I think would be fun, I might be more likely to prioritize these things. But the current focus is keeping the game alive, obviously, which is why they haven't ended up at the top. So inside of these, to order them, I think I would probably keep the potato flag one up top, just because I think that's the best one for ease of implementation and then direct impact on the game. It's not going to like throw the whole game upside down. It's a very minor change, but it is better for a very specific use case that I think could use some more attention. So that would be my first pick from there. This one is probably not the highest priority, but it's very easy to add, so I'd probably keep it up top just for that, because I think it is a good change to make. After that, these are all things that you'd have to experiment with first. So I think the least disruptive of these changes would be bombs and buttons on team tiles. That's not very disruptive at all. Then wall bombs tile, not very disruptive. It's pretty similar to stuff that we already have, just a little bit different. Then the peak tile shape, the super boost tile, and then these two would bring up the rear. So that's my personal order. If you disagree with it, let me know. But that's where I stand on those things for now. For group options, these are the ones that are all very fun, but they're very, very specific use cases. So I think, again, we'll go by ease of access, ease of implementation. That's very easy to add. This one I think is really cool for racing. Like you think about the spin out raceway, you've got the Rainbow Road essentially. Or is it called Rainbow Road? Doesn't matter. We got the map where it's surrounded by spikes. If you pop, instead of going back to the beginning, you would just go back a little bit and then keep going based on where you popped, which is better for new players trying to figure out that map for the first time, but it's not like a this needs to happen kind of thing either. So I think anchored Mars balls would be my next pick. I think that's a fun concept. Mars ball scoring would be super easy. Then this one caught my attention. I thought it was pretty cool. Stealing power-ups. I don't know how much it would work really, but this one I know the gravity community wants. That can go up top. TagPro's bot pull teams. That was a cool idea. I think that'd be fun to see how it plays out. And the next, they kind of get a little more complicated down here. See-through walls, I like just from a group's perspective because it gives us some freedom in events. I think that we could use that for other things that aren't specifically Halloween events. I think that there's some room for something with this, but I'm not sure what it is yet. This is one where, like, I don't know, it could make its way into the meta if it's popular enough, but I just don't see it happening. Inverted rolling bomb, sure. Let's see. Top speed probably after that. See, the events and private groups one. This one, it's the kind of thing that I really, really want, but it's a lot of work to do. And it doesn't really change the game. Like, it's a fun thing that you know about if you played these events, but if you're new to the game, it's just like a weird, unexplained lobby that you end up in. So like you could have fun with it, but there's no connection to what it actually is. I don't know. I like it. I like it a lot. I want it for myself, but I just don't see how I would be able to prioritize it. Weekly or monthly community events. Yeah, you could do like the what do you call it? We have that thing on Discord that we haven't done in a while. I think it was called Community Nights, where you could say we're gonna throw in an event lobby. Yeah, definitely something there. Yeah, I think all of these ones down here are kind of in the same. I mean, the title really is the truth. We could do it, but when are we going to have time for it, and why should we choose that over something else? So I'm not gonna tear my hair out over the specifics down here. Game options. I think separate donation flares. Also, hi Robiny. So you have the same colored name as Grant, so I thought you were Grant for a second. I think the texture packs is probably the most important out of these, just from a new player experience standpoint. Lex says hi. Does Timmy say hi? Oh, it's your first time, Robiny. Welcome. Hi, Lex. Profile stats for map. Yeah, all these things, it's the same thing. It's like, I don't know when we're gonna have time for these. Well, this will be more relevant when we work on building an actual release. So I'm not gonna worry about that right now. So that's all the stuff that we have here, all together. And so the next steps, what I was wanting to do from here, and I'm open to some feedback on this, but I think that I want to talk about where do we go from here. And what I mean by that is, we have a Steam release on the way. We have a shop currently in progress. When we get those done, what do we do next? Like, what's the first thing that we should be working on after we have theoretically gotten the game into a better place? We have more players joining for the first time. We have a larger community, hopefully, or at least the potential for one. How do we then use that momentum, put out new features that are interesting and keep people engaged and around? So I think where we're going to start is with the cornerstone, and I'm going to just say it again. There are more cornerstone items than just these ones. Let me pull up the list over here. There are things that we have worked on stream here together, and those are not listed out in front of us because they don't have a ticket yet. They're things that I need to bring to the Steer Co and finalize before we could actually put the ticket in. But if I can find that list, that would be fantastic. There we go. Can I share this? Is there something sensitive here? Hope not. Let's find out. All right. So these are tickets we've worked on together. We have moderation tools for group leaders, game state specific settings. That was the thing I talked about with rebuilding the entire back end of the game process. I'm not going to worry about that right now. Manual selection of spawn location. That's not really a cornerstone. Post-game statistical milestones, also not really a cornerstone. Scalability mod tools, not a cornerstone. Duo and trio queuing, that is a cornerstone, probably. More specific stats. Sanitized chat, that's probably a big one for... Yeah, let me make some elements over here for these ones. We've got interactive player tutorial. That is definitely a cornerstone. We've got group settings rebuild, essentially, which was talking about moving completely away from the current system that we have with groups, which is the just big drop down of settings that you can pick from and no real connection to them, into a different thing where you can type in a group name or a setting name and it will pop up, and just a better display of all of the group things that there are, so that it's easier to find the thing that you want and to actually use it in your game. I'm not going to explain it more than that because it was a long thing, but that would be a cornerstone as well. Then we had sanitize chat feature. That's probably more down in the QOL information. Then we had duo and trio queuing. For casual and for ranked, that would be a cornerstone item. Then we had, yeah, those are the only ones that are going to change what we're doing right now. So let's keep it at that, and let's talk about releases. So just in your brain, pretend we have released the in-game shop. It's going really well. We have just done the Steam release. Everyone's super hyped. You got a lot of new players finding the game for the first time. What do you do first after that happens? And so we've made our order already of the blue items here, where we said that the calendar is the biggest of all these. But if we are fresh off of a Steam release, what is the thing that people are going to be looking for, that they want to do if they are new to the game, they just found it and they're exploring it for the first time? I think it's probably going to be one of the three that we just added. I think it's going to be the duo and trio queuing is going to be the main thing that people are going to want. And that's useful for two reasons. One, it's a cool thing for players who already have been playing the game, so it benefits people who have been around for a long time, but it also gives the opportunity for newer players to pull their friends in and say, hey, this is a cool game I found. I want you to play with me. We can be on the same team. Because you don't really have that opportunity right now. You have public queuing for private groups, but you don't have the ability to always be on their team. Speaking of friends, says Grant. Grant, it's right here. It's right there. It's right there. You think you need friends first to do duo and trio queuing? Because, yeah, that's a good point, because you need to have the ability to invite somebody to your party, kind of thing. Is that something you can only do after a friends feature? I can see the argument there. Within Steam, I don't know how it would work within Steam. Well, Steam has its own thing, but I think the problem with that is cross-compatibility. How do you make it work between browser players and Steam players? And a lot of players are probably going to move to Steam in general, but we want to honor that browser part of it too. We're not planning to ditch support for the browser. So where I'm going with that is that Steam has its own friends feature, but we would, I think, like you're saying, we would need to have our internal version of that as well. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure how that works in truth. Maybe there's some way we can piggyback on Steam's. I'm not sure what the right answer to that is. I think it's definitely something we need to talk about a little bit more, because there's a lot we can do with the friends feature, but if Steam would just take all of that functionality and we duplicate it, that feels like a waste of time. The group link as a concept doesn't make as much. Yeah. I mean, it could be the case that we wait and see what the Steam friends feature looks like on our end. Like, what does it expose that we can use? And then we just create like a fake version of that on our side of things, that if they're in the browser, it does one thing. If they're on Steam, it does the normal Steam thing. But I don't know. I think that definitely needs a longer conversation, because I'm also thinking about when you're in the site itself. Yeah, if I'm in the site itself, like why wouldn't I want the ability to send somebody an invite in the site? Like why would I want to go back to Steam to see the invite to go back into the game if we can just have it in the game the whole time? We'll talk about it. I think that definitely needs to be bumped up though as a result, even though I think that this is very important. I think that this is more time sensitive there. So following that thought, let's just pretend for the conversation that we have just added a friends feature with duo and trio queuing. Let's just say it all happened at the same time. I think the question then is, what do you add in that supplements that and makes it a better thing? So I think I can put little stickers. So let's do little star stickers. That's great. So if we're saying we have these guys in one release, can I copy the size of that? Yes. Okay, good. Let's get rid of you. What do we need to bring along that's going to supplement that? And I think that most of these are going to be on the information side of things, because that is what the main feature is. Like this is an information and functional. It's not really a visual audio change. So what makes the game more fun to play with other people? What kind of am I thinking? None of those really fit the bill. Yeah, none of those really catch my attention as similar. All right, I thought this was going to be easier. I'm not seeing any matches down here at all. I don't need exciting. I just need like similar. I need something that's like, okay, ready, check. That's an easy one. That's definitely related. We're thinking about like communication. What are things that allow you to interact with other people? That should be the kind of stuff that we are looking at here. I think I would say that is relevant. And those would probably go together. Enable notifications thing. That's not multiple people though. Multiple players edit group settings. That's friend related. Allow other group member options. I'm thinking more groups oriented now, because they would have to get into a group before they play their games together as a duo or trio queue. So I think focusing on group things would probably be where I would go with it, now that I've looked at it a little more. Yeah. Remove tips from private lobbies. Little things like that would be easy. Okay, that's a start. And then what down here would be group? We got a lot of group things. What would actually be used by people who are having friend stuff? Buddy jumps is friend related, maybe. You've got things that were like collaborative things. What would be multiple players using this? If you're saying that you want to have your friends together, what would friends do in a group? I think that's honestly a really good argument for events in truth. What would friends do? Yeah, somebody with friends. Can you explain to me what you would do with them? I've never had friends before. I mean, that's a decent release right there. It's not everything, but again, along the way, we also pick up things that have just come up based on the changes we've made. So I don't know how much more we'd really be able to fit in, but game mode specific, that's actually a good one. Especially for new players, if you're like, hey, let's check out capture the flag maps or whatever on a rotation. And then you can do the same thing in the game history so they can see what maps they played. Okay. Oops, what did I just click? Oh God. Okay, so that would be a release. Fine. Yeah, okay. So then after that, let's move on to a different one. And you do just one more time, and then that'll be enough for today, I think. So let's pick a different emoji and a different release. Oh God. I don't have a good. Anyone? Any ideas? I want like a check mark. There we go. Okay. Anything a different color. Yep, boom. Okay. So if we say in this next release, this is going to be the one where we have a calendar on the home page for event submissions for things that are going to be happening. It's community building things. Christmas tree. Now, what would go along with community events? So this is things that people could do that would be open for anybody else in the community to join. I think that linking accounts makes sense with that. If we, I know it's also in the cornerstones, but that would also follow the same line of thinking. So this is going to be mostly private game oriented. It's going to be things that players were organizing on their own time, like last night's Blueprint Brawl that Fly hosted. That would be an example of a thing that could be posted on a calendar. And you could say, anybody who wants to join this, sign up for it. Your sign up is vetted because you have to have a TagPro account to sign up for it. So what would supplement that? I think that mini games might be more prevalent there, so it'd be good to know what they are. External site links, definitely relevant for that. Fortunate Maps ID. If people want to have tournaments, it's good for them to know what maps they're playing it on. Notify group members. Yes, this one would come up more if a server is full. You want to know that it's full, not just that you're stuck in the joiner. So it'd be good to know that you're waiting for something. Display wins required. No. This is definitely a very information slanted thing because it's all about sharing information with people. Personal mutes for spectators maybe would be related to that. If people want to be in a group with other people from the community to be a part of this event, they might see a certain person more frequently. They might not want to be seeing that person's chat. We should be hiding chat if they're spectating that game, if they already muted that person. None of these are really relevant at all to that. Particle effects, that's probably good to have fixed. Audio cue from, oh yeah, that's a good one. Where is that though? Is that, second from the last left median? Aha. Definitely that one. customization of splats. Not really related. It could go hand in hand, but map previews maybe could be related, because that's if you're promoting an event and you want to show people the map. Probably all of these would be relevant at the same time. Okay, what else? Blinker to sticky gates? No. New and old chat, that's a group thing. Display color, no. Preserve category header scrolling through group maps, that could come up. Leaderboard, no. Single team. Yeah, none of those would do anything. And then this one, basically anything down here in the group options would be relevant for this, because people would want to have mini games with different settings and whatever. Just more settings for them to pick from would be relevant for that. So I'm not even going to do specific ones. Just anything in this category would be relevant for a release like that. So that would be good. Game queues. Oh yeah, that's yeah. Where is that one? Yeah, that would be actually a very good one. Would it be helpful for the knockout? Yeah, so what that is, for those who don't know, it's instead of a group preset, which you have now where you have to copy a link or a code and then it loads up the settings for that game, you could have that but for a series of games. So you could say I have a 5-game series preset, and you would just put it in, and after that first game ends, it automatically moves to the second game and the third game. So whoever's putting together the event can just make all the settings that they need, put them into a single copyable thing, and then you just need to paste that once, and your group is good for the entirety of the thing that you're playing. And you would have the ability to skip ahead or go back. Like, you could see all of the maps that would be in there and know that you're starting from the correct one, but it just gives you all that information at once instead of having to go fetch it and come back and go fetch it and come back. Unrelated, I can make a feedback post. I would like if server selection could be in the preset. Yeah, there was a reason we didn't do that. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. I think it had to do with not having predefined servers, maybe. Like at any time we could decide to switch. We're not going to. We could decide to switch back to Dallas from Chicago. If you did that, any preset that had Chicago selected is now invalid because there is no Chicago server. I think that was related to why we didn't do it. But at the same time, our servers are pretty stable right now. We're not bouncing all over the place. We're not trying new ones right now. We're pretty happy with what we have. So yeah, I don't know. Definitely feel free to put the ticket in. I think it could happen. I'm just not sure when. Do I expect that to happen to regions as a whole? Probably not. I mean, it's the kind of thing that it kind of depends on how many players we have, right? If Steam is a success and we have a lot more players, we would be adding regions in. Would we get more granular with our regions? Probably not. We probably wouldn't get more. Like, US East is pretty broad, but it's still playable for everybody who selects it. Like, even if you're in Florida, you can play on New York and vice versa. It's not the most fun all the time, but if you have more players, it's going to take the server closer to you whenever it can. So I think it's a fine thing to request. I wouldn't shy away from it. I think we could definitely add that at some point. So I would say go for it. All right. I guess we have time for one more. Let's do one more. Let's do the time trials one. I think that's the next one I like. So let's get an emoji for this one. If I want Chicago servers only and say US Central, and then you add Kansas City, yeah, I think that's such a specific thing, though. I don't think we have to worry about it until it becomes a problem, basically. Let's do exclamation points. That's fun. All right. Time trial leaderboard. Yaba's on a 5-stream streak. There is no server in Kansas City. That's a different problem, but yes, it's true. So if we add a time trial leaderboard, we're saying that on the leaders page, there would now be a time trials section, and you would have a bunch of maps, and you'd have the top times for each of those maps. What could you add to improve that release. I think that zoom levels on replays is a huge one for that, because you want to be watching back people's time trials, and if you can't see it on your damn phone because it's so zoomed out, that's not fun. So that would be a good thing to add. Mars Ball Siren, probably going to be relevant for some time trial maps. That's nothing. Game type filter would definitely be relevant there. Remapping of keys, probably relevant to that. Allow seeking, again, replays. People are going to be watching replays more often with something like this. Splats display time. If you're trying a map over and over and you keep popping, maybe the splats would be a bit distracting for you. Scroll wheel zooming in and out of replays, same argument there. I think anything replay related is probably an easy sell here. Reported, none of that's really relevant. This might come up occasionally. Map test mode. If you click it by accident, your settings get messed up. That's all it is. It's not anything to worry about right now. Spectate replay option. Follow flag carrier. Well, I guess if you're following one player, the player wouldn't change, but I'll mark it anyway. I'm thinking about if we ended up doing like a collaboration time trials or something like that, maybe it would be relevant, but we'll see. Give group leaders the option, no. Texture packs, no. Mobile flare, no. Uncapped max speed. This would probably need to be fixed if there were gravity time trials, which was a part of that initial spec, so keep that in there. Okay. Blinker to sticky gates, I don't think that would be relevant. 0 degree display on replays. No, I keep forgetting about that. DNF's not relevant. Progress bar, no. Replay stuff, maybe this is maybe relevant. Team name, player name, no. Monthly display, no. Yeah, I don't think any of that's really relevant. What else down here? Meta stuff, no. I don't think we would want to have different settings. It would probably be, well, I guess gravity would have different settings, but the regular maps not. So maybe gravity things could be marked for this. But it wouldn't be like grab immunity. That wouldn't come up in a single player time trial, so that's not anything to worry about. Anchored Mars balls could maybe come up for that. See-through walls wouldn't be relevant, just single player, we're thinking for now. Inverted rolling bomb, I don't think that would matter. Top speed, no, that's different, too different. Teleport, Game ending parameters, that's a tricky one. It's a really complicated thing to add. I think it would be kind of out of scope for this particular release. OT win rate, 360. Texture packs, honking. Yeah, no, none of that would be. Okay, so that would be a smaller one, but still good. And 5 minutes left. Do I want to do another? I don't want to do another. I think I'm going to call it there. I did want to talk briefly about, what was I going to talk about? Shoot. It must not have been very important. I think it was just about the meeting that we have on Sunday. We're talking about the next steps, and we have a couple of developers who we've just added who we want to get up and running. And Yeah, I really thought there was something, but I don't know. I'm not gonna worry about it for now. I think that's good enough stopping point. So, as I've mentioned before, there should be a form pinned in the chat here that will also be in the YouTube description and in the Reddit text post. So feel free to submit a question there if you'd like me to answer it on stream. Otherwise, I'll be back next week. Don't forget to update the devs page on the leaders tab. Yes, we need to get them up and running there. There are a couple people we haven't added in a while who have been active, so we are definitely behind on that. But sorry, it's really bothered. I thought I had something, but it's whatever. Moving on. That's all. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in a week. Happy New Year.